I'm going to show you a little local news report from Orlando, Florida this weekend. And I'm just going to warn you right up front that some of the images and the speech in this clip are gross and they could be upsetting. This contains some anti-Semitic and white supremacist blather that you might not want to hear, or you might not want your kids to hear if you're watching with any kids. So that is your fair warning if you do not want to hear it. But the reason I'm going to show it, even just a few seconds of it, is that it does us no good to pretend that this isn't happening. And if you take a look at just a little bit of this, you will understand why the citizens of Orlando, Florida, may be a little shaken up today. This is from News 6 Orlando.
No more Jews.
Men and women with neo-Nazi armbands, flags, and posters stood on the corner of this Waterford Lakes intersection on Saturday, shouting words of white supremacist hate. Orange County Sheriff's deputies confirmed this video is part of their active and open investigation into the demonstration. And this part of the video, a fight in the street, investigators say involved the demonstrators and a passerby. Also over the weekend, troopers broke up this demonstration of hate on an I-4 overpass in Orlando, telling News 6 it's illegal to obstruct traffic or hang signs on overpasses.
So that's two overt Nazi gatherings on two successive days this weekend out in broad daylight in Central Florida at the shopping center, over the highway, just out harassing the locals. There's no word yet on whether there's going to be any charges against any of the Nazis, either for the fight on Saturday or for obstructing traffic and hanging signs on overpasses on Sunday. But to be honest, it's not even the potentially illegal parts of what they did that are the most disturbing, right? I'm just going to show you a tiny bit more of that video that's part of the investigation by the Orange County Sheriff now in Florida. Because with this bit that I'm going to show you, you can get a sense of the way they were going after the locals and innocent bystanders, trying to freak people out, trying to provoke people. This is just a few seconds, again, but I will warn you that it is a little gross.
Hail Hitler and what he did. No more Jews. You get the black power, you got white power. White power. He's a Jew. He's a Jew. Look at him. Guess where you're going back to?
Believe it or not, we actually carefully cut that to show you the least vulgar excerpt we could find from that tape, right? It still makes your skin crawl. I will also just note that when the Nazi groups took to the highway overpasses yesterday, on one of them, right next to the swastika banner, they draped a banner that said, "Let's go, Brandon," except because they're exactly the geniuses you think they are, they misspelled the word Brandon. Like, that's a hard one. Now, why were they saying "Let's go, Brandon"? If you are unfamiliar, that phrase is a kind of code among the pro-Trump crowd for F Joe Biden. It's become a rallying cry for pro-Trump folks all over the country and even for Republican elected officials. But for whatever reason, this particular group of Nazis feel like that's the right message, along with all the kill the Jews stuff. And for whatever reason, they believe this is the right moment to go out and gather in broad daylight in suburban Orlando, Florida. Joining us now is Florida State Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith. His district includes the area where this Nazi group gathered on Saturday. He said yesterday online, quote, "Hatred and anti-Semitism have no place in our community. I'm appalled to see Nazis rallying in the East Orlando district I represent. They are never welcome here." Representative Smith, I appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
First, I'm sorry that this happened in your district. It is at least at some level, it is a terrorizing thing for people to come up against this on the street corner or even on the local news on their commute to work or whatever. Let me just ask how your constituents are reacting to this, what the community reaction has been.
Well, folks in the East Orlando-based district that I represent near the University of Central Florida were appalled. I remember getting tagged and getting texts and, getting posts on my social media feed that it was happening in Waterford Lakes. It's a place that I am very familiar with. It's near my East Orlando home. And folks were really alarmed and scared that this was actually happening in their community. And like I said before, in my social media post that you read, this type of hatred and anti-Semitism is not welcome here in Orlando. Orlando is a really diverse community that is an inclusive community, that is an accepting community. And these neo-Nazis that were rallying around Orlando, they don't represent who we are. But it's not just those of us here in Orlando that should be concerned and alarmed. All Floridians should be concerned because we're seeing a rise of extremism and white supremacy in our state. And we all have to understand that that didn't happen here overnight. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, Florida is number 2 in the nation for the number of hate groups that are based in our state, and that number is growing. We also know that, unfortunately, there were more Floridians that were arrested and that are seeing charges brought against them who were involved in the violent insurrection on January 6th in the nation's capital. And many of those individuals were tied to some of these hate groups, like the Proud Boys. And so it's really incumbent on folks to speak out, to denounce this type of hatred and bigotry, and really just kind of be aware and open their eyes to this rise of extremist and hateful behavior in our area.
Were any of these groups at all recognizable to you? Are these, I mean, has there been previous white supremacist activity like this in your district? Were any of these, is there any sense in which these guys were sort of usual suspects for this sort of thing? Or was this a surprise, and were these strangers?
Well, we understand that one of the groups that was involved, one of their leaders is based in Kissimmee, which is just around the corner from the East Orlando district that I represent. We also saw in South Florida some leaflets and some papers, some anti-Semitic documents and flyers that were being left in our communities that were promoting the same hateful message. But I think what's important to contextualize here is what are we doing in our state that is potentially affecting the rise in hatred and extremism in Florida? You know, our legislature right now is actively considering proposals pushed by Governor DeSantis to, for example, shield Floridians from discomfort or guilt by censoring conversations about race, about LGBTQ identities in our schools and in our workplaces. Somehow, some of these extremists and white supremacists are getting the message that it is okay for them to be public with their hatred and anti-Semitism, that they should come out of the shadows, because we're seeing this rise in extremism, and it's incumbent upon all elected officials, Republican and Democrat, to unequivocally condemn this type of hatred and ask, why are individuals feeling empowered, these neo-Nazis, to come out from the shadows? And why has Florida become such a haven for anti-Semitic extremists and white supremacists?
Florida State Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith. Representative Smith, I appreciate you being here tonight. Again, I am sorry that this has happened in your district. It's a pleasure to have you here, to have you able to speak out about it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rachel. And I would also encourage your viewers who want to beat back against this type of hatred and anti-Semitism to donate to the Holocaust Center of Central Florida, because we think that education is such an important part of combating this type of hatred.
Also a good point in that it will absolutely drive crazy those guys who showed up in Orlando today to know that anybody outraged by them isn't just outraged and scared, but is actively contributing to a cause like that. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.